air quotes, as far as I'm concerned. Because when you read the body of the story, and I invite everyone listening to read the story, you can find it in this day. You either buy the paper version or you read it online. The vice president is expected to use the visit to explore opportunities for strengthened collaboration between Nigeria and Sweden in areas such as ICT, innovation, education, digitalization, sustainable transport, mining, and agriculture. Now, again, these people have no regard for us. Why do you need a trip to explore opportunities? Can you not explore these opportunities virtually from Abuja? There's a Swedish embassy in Abuja. Did they ever think about starting consultations there? Did they go online to check? Okay, is there how do we contact Swedish businesses? Who are the leading Swedish players in all these areas? Why do we need a trip funded by taxpayers to start the process of exploring anything? Now, the danger with a 2 day trip is a 2 day trip now sufficient to fully explore and get any results? I highly doubt that. Then it goes further. He's expected to meet with Norsken, some Stockholm based venture capital impact investor, and they're supposed to present a case for how Nigerian entrepreneurs can benefit. Again, I'm sorry. I'm truly sorry. This is ridiculous. If you are good, if you're a worthy market due to receive investment, you do not need to go and plead your case. The investors follow the money. Trust me, they're smart enough to know where the money is and chase it. What this sounds like is we're traveling there and we're literally going to beg. Now, again, I've said this many times on this show. Investors are rational human beings. With all the confusion going on in country, how do you expect any rational, reasonable investor to come in and plug in money long term? Makes no sense. The best an investor would do will come and play in your money market. 90 days, 180 days, collect his profits, take off. Now, it's truly interesting. Now, he's going to talk to the Swedish royalty. I wonder what they're talking about. He wants to talk with the Swedish Prime Minister. What are you talking about? If you cannot tell the people who you supposedly begged and appealed to vote you into office, if you cannot tell us what it is you're going to tell them, what exactly is the point?
Well, they have mentioned some of the areas that they're going to have conversations
No,
around.
no. With the Swedish Prime Minister and the Crown Princess Victoria of Sweden. Now, she holds no executive role in government. So what exactly are you speaking with her about? You cannot continue to shroud operations of governance in secrecy and expect that the trust deficit will magically disappear overnight. We have a deficit in trust, we have a deficit in governance, and I'm sorry, they're taking a long. This just seems like this trip was hurriedly put together, and fingers crossed, but I want to be pleasantly surprised that for once something will actually come out of all this foreign junketing by our public officials. Because let's not forget, between February and July this year, the president spent about 2.3 billion on foreign trips. I haven't seen any of the results, anything that came out of those trips. If our listeners know anything that's come out of those trips, please send in a comment. I'd like to read it. I would like to be educated. But here we go again. He's back on Saturday. Meanwhile, there's still no mention of when the main man is coming back.
It is 2 weeks working leave. So
yeah, 2 weeks is not ad infinitum. It must have a terminal date. When is that terminal date? So more questions, but let's get on with the show.
All right. If you're just tuning in, welcome to Freshly Pressed on Smooth 98.1. And Emeka, I see you. Yes. It is good to be back. Apologies for not being on the grind yesterday. One thing I will say is that good health is something you cannot take for granted. But hey, I'm glad to be back on the grind with you this morning. And thank you for always being here. Tune in to Smooth 98.1. Keep those messages coming in once again, 0809444091. We're also streaming on YouTube. You can catch us at Smooth 981 FM Lagos. Smooth 981 FM Lagos. All right, Gbubemi, let me come to you right now. And let's take the story coming out of The Guardian. The House of Representatives has asked the federal government to revert to the old pump price of petroleum products, maintaining that the rising cost of petrol and cooking gas poses a significant threat to the livelihood of millions of Nigerians. Now, the lawmakers specifically demanded an urgent reversal of the hike in the price of fuel and cooking gas, also urging state governments to adopt policies that alleviate the financial burden on their citizens, such as waiving taxes or levies on transportation and goods affected by high fuel costs. First of all, I thought the federal government didn't have anything to do with pricing of petrol, first of all. And secondly, which of the old pump prices are we referring to here? Because we've had a number of old pump prices. So which one, the House of Reps actually talking about here?
Exactly, that was going to be my question because I was wondering, are we going to go back to 198? Are they saying we should go back to 198 naira that it was in May 2023? Or is it the last 855 naira that they're saying we should go back to? They should have been a bit clearer. When I read stories like this, to be honest, I just don't give them any importance. First and foremost, for me, it reeks of the fact that the House of Representatives, which is supposed to be a member of the third arm of government, considering that they're the lower house of the National Assembly, don't appear to be, on the same page with the federal government, which is the executive. I would say, going by all of the information that we have been giving, a lot of information has been put out as to why the pump price has been increased. Quote and unquote, we are also aware that since there's still a bit of importation going on, since our local refining capacity is not where it should be, largely our fuel cost, our petrol cost will be determined by international prices, considering our importing refined fuel and all of that. Yes, there's the Dangote refinery, but it's only been supplying for about 2 months or 3 months at the most, so there's still that on that hand. So when I read stories like this, the first thing I always ask myself is, within the ambit of the responsibility that the House of Representatives have, what exactly have they done? Considering that they have the power to make laws, considering also that they have oversight responsibilities over ministries, departments, and agencies. A few weeks ago, we heard that NMPC had postponed for the 8th time the supposed opening of the Port Harcourt refinery. To the best of my knowledge, I have not seen the House of Representatives raise hell concerning that. That is something that they should look at because they have oversight over that as well. What laws have they even passed to support or alleviate the situation that Nigerians are facing? Quite right, because things are tough. And when I see things like this, I remember, for example, if you go back to the budget process last year, reports of a lot of projects that members of the National Assembly, and not just House of Representatives now, also the Senate, have added to the budget. So reports where a ministry or department should have said, we budgeted X, it got to the House of Assembly, National Assembly rather, for consideration, and it became X times 2 or X times 3. For me, those are quick wins. A lot of all the monies that they allocated to projects that may not have direct impact on people, or that may not even be executed in time, or that may not even be executed. Redirect that money back to alleviate the sufferings of the people, if you people are really serious. We talk a lot about how, they receive, allowances that nobody's sure, they're receiving, of what amounts and all of that. Yes, at some point they said, they're going to take a pay cut in their salaries, but we all know that their salaries don't really amount to much compared to all the other allowances.
The allowances are where the bulk of the money's come out of.
So if they're really, really, really concerned about the sufferings that Nigerians are going through, let them cut a lot of all those things. Let's see that they've cut them. Let's see where the money that they've cut goes to. Rather than saying, they urge the federal government to revert to the old pump price. They know that's not going to happen. So they're just pandering to the public. That's as far as I'm concerned.
Okay, thank you for those thoughts, Gbubemi. And of course, talking about alleviating, or should I say, understanding what the people are going through, Mr. C. This is a very good opportunity to head into the Daily Trust, where the Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, Wale Edun, has been speaking And he has said that the government acknowledges the pain the current reforms of the government have inflicted on Nigerians, while stating that the reforms are necessary for growth and development of the economy. I mean, from the high pedestals where people like ministers, governors, and co are sitting, do they really understand the sort of pain that Nigerians are going through when they say things like this? Oh, we understand the pain that you are going through. We feel the pain that you are going through. Can they truly empathize with what Nigerians are going through? I mean, looking at what he's saying, that these reforms are necessary. Let's even assume that these reforms are definitely necessary. Execution, hasn't that been a very big problem?
Yes, it has. So let's be very clear, right? The Nigerian economy for at least the last 15, 20 years hasn't, no, at least let's, no, because as of 2015, we were on track with I think three or four other countries to having the best results globally. Now, what has happened is years of mismanagement and it spreads across several administrations. It crosses, it's cuts across different party platforms, different political platforms, is that we're now where we're at. And the truth of the matter is reforms were needed. Take your mind back to the campaigns last year. Each of the candidates did acknowledge that reforms will be necessary.
Mm.
But again, like you said, execution is the key. Now, no one expected that the current administration would implement all these reforms or start the implementation simultaneously without putting in any shock absorbers. But albeit they did it, and we're here now. Now, many times we hear government officials, we hear public officials say, oh, we understand what you guys are going through, that you need to hang in there, you need to continue tightening your belts, that it's a sacrifice we all have to make. So when it comes off as a soundbite, then when you match their words with their actions, there's a grave and gross disconnect. Now, he says reforms are necessary. From an economic perspective, yes. But in governing a country, you don't only look at an economic perspective, which includes the fiscal side and the monetary side.
Mm.
You also need to look at a social impact. You need to look at the political impact. So it's not a one-sided view. Now, for how much longer will these reforms continue to exist? From the start of the execution of these reforms, where are we percentage wise? Have they achieved 15%, 20% of what they sought to achieve? What is left to be achieved? Over what period of time are we looking to achieve these things? What are the things inhibiting the success of these reforms? What more do we need to do? We don't have those details. All we have is, oh, for example, we have savings from fuel subsidy, which is very interesting because when it was announced, now let's be very clear. The previous administration stopped the subsidy and they made a budget only until June last year.
Mm.
The current president came in and stopped it the day he entered office. Now, he did tell us that there will be savings. Till date, even as we speak, no government official, including the current president, has come out to tell us the exact amount of this savings from the fuel subsidy. All we keep hearing, oh, we're using for social intervention programs. For example, they say that they are directly transferring cash to 20 million Nigerian households.
Right.
Again, a common question on the streets, even on social media, is where are these 20 million households located? Because you would think that every one of us would know at least one person directly or indirectly, but nobody seems to know anyone receiving this cash.
Even if we know the 20 million people who are receiving this cash, I mean, it's throwing money at this.
No. So first of all, we're not even sure it's being done. It's being done the way they say it's being done. Then two, more importantly, throwing cash and or rice at people is never the solution. It's a short-term measure, not designed to impact long-term. The long-term measure is how do we stimulate the economy again? How do we get the micro, small, and medium enterprises to pick up again? Because pick any solid economy all over the world. It's the small and medium scale businesses that actually drive the economy in terms of numbers, in terms of turnover. Here,
Right.
that's not the case. What is impacting these guys? So, one, you have to look at infrastructure, you have to look at power supply, you have to look at roads, because even the farmers aren't doing what they need to do. So there are many things impeding our growth. There are many things impeding the success of these reforms. I'm not sure they fully identified all of them. And even if they have, what are they doing about it? Because it's one thing to tell me you need to continue to hang on, you need to hang in there, there's light at the end of the tunnel. How much longer do I need to wait? Because human beings by nature are naturally not patient. But if they have an idea of what it is they're in for, it makes it easier to come to terms with it, to be at peace with it.
Right.
So if you
Right.
tell us we're looking at least 8 more months or 12 more months, then we start to see an easing of the reforms. Then people can plan. People can mentally adjust their minds to the fact that okay, in 8 or 12 months, this is where we should be. And then if we're not there, questions will be asked.
All right.
But alas, where we are, the Honorable Minister of Finance, we need to have some sort of idea between you and your boss. Somebody should be speaking to us with milestones achieved, milestones yet to be achieved, and how we can get there. Because you keep on calling for the support of Nigerians on this journey. How do we support you if we don't know how to support you and when to support you? That's $1 million question.
$1 million question. Let's do a couple of messages before we get back into the stories. Adigboyega Adidiji says President Tinubu and his vice embarking on a goose chase around the ocean amidst the suffering and hardship that has engulfed the nation. The same trajectory of a wasteful voyage embarked by his predecessor, President Buhari, who spent most of his time in one foreign country or another, quick to attend unnecessary foreign meetings and gatherings for 8 good years with nothing tangible to show for it. They get away with it due to our vulnerability. Our mumu has not ripened. Okay. 28 from Lagos Metropolis says the sooner we realize, understand, and unfortunately accept that subsidy is not on fuel or electricity, but on government funding and largesse, the sooner we can accept our dark fate in Nigeria. On one hand, the government says we understand your pains. Hang on. On the other hand, they sharpen the knives of yet another tax on Nigerians. Okay. This is from Olekon O from Festac. He says, I like the objectivity of Mr. C on the statement by Wale Edo, but I have a little divergence on the social impact of reforms. Clearly, it's a Nigerian thing since the 80s for government to look at the social side, making them put short-term reforms which have no lasting effect. My second fear is that those reforms will be reversed by a new administration. All right, thank you for sharing your thoughts there. JP says the legislative arm is reactive. The PIA was passed, and that regulated the economy. With petrol crude supply is limited to the refineries. What are they doing in that respect? Savings and probity on subsidy funds. Where are we? On serious lots. Cheers. Thank you for sharing your thoughts, JP. All right, but let me come back to you, and let's talk about this unfortunate incident that happened in Jigawa, taking the story out of the Punch. It says there was wailing on Wednesday in Majia town in the Taura local government area of Jigawa state following the explosion of a petroleum tanker leading to the death of at least 153 people. A sad one coming out of Jigawa. That was on Tuesday evening or thereabouts, or Tuesday thereabouts. Now the interesting thing about this story is the fact that on Wednesday in the Ibafo area there was another incident concerning a tanker where property and houses were burnt. Now tanker accidents are not new in Nigeria; they're regular occurrence. Now the one in Jigawa happened because the loss of lives in Jigawa was that high because people were scooping fuel. This is something that is, once again, unfortunately, is not new. And we keep having these same issues of these tankers having problems in the first place, leading to people putting their lives at risk. I mean, for how long are we going to continue on this vicious cycle? 100+ lives lost right there.
Yeah, so this is really quite disappointing, but like it's not something new. We've seen a lot of tanker explosions happening all over the country, and with high casualty figures as well. To be honest, one of the first things that occurs to me when we have some of these tanker accidents is what state are those tankers in? A lot of times when I see road safety officials, VIO officials on the road, you tend to see them, stopping private car owners and all of that. You rarely see them stop commercial vehicles, trailers, tankers, all of those things. And many of these vehicles, you can clearly see that they're in a bad state. So most likely this tanker had failed brakes or something, or, okay, if we go easy on the driver, maybe he was fatigued from driving, which is also another issue. But at the end of the day, there's some sort of either driver issue or vehicle issue which caused this tanker accident. So a lot of times I wonder, do the officials who are responsible for making sure that vehicles are motorable, or that vehicles are suitable, for road transport, are actually suited for that purpose? Do they do these checks? I've seen tankers, for example, the average tanker has maybe about 8 to 10 tires. Some of them have double tires in the middle. Some of those middle tires are flat. And these tanker drivers are driving those tankers like that. So how will an accident not even happen? And then the owners of these tankers as well, I think when things like this happen, they should be held responsible for these accidents, because clearly they should have first done their checks before allowing those tankers to go on the road. And then the incidents of the casualties, where we have high casualties because most likely people are out being for. It just speaks to the high level of poverty, that we have in society. Everybody thinks immediately, it's a something that they have to weigh. Do I quickly scoop as much fuel as I can so I can sell it and make money, understanding that there's a risk that something may happen and I may lose my life?
A huge risk.
Clearly, hunger will win. You understand? And they will take that risk because they probably don't have any food at home. You understand? And this is what has led to this now. Will there be other tanker explosions in the future? Yes. Will there be other people who have gone to scoop fuel when the tanker accidents? Yes. Will those people have known that previous accidents had occurred with tanker explosions? Yes. Why? Because they are hungry and they have to weigh that decision. Most likely, they will go for it. So first and foremost, I believe that those who own these tankers should first of all be held responsible for incidences like this, because they should ensure that those tankers are motorable. Then also, I hope that there's no driver fatigue involved, which also will clearly speak to the management of the driver's job, because clearly the driver should be in a suitable frame of mind to be able to drive the tankers.
Okay, so let me jump in, right? I hear Gbubemi and I agree with everything but one thing, right? The people who went to scoop petrol are not poor, they're criminals. That's stealing. You didn't buy the petrol, you didn't pay for it, but you want to collect it and benefit from it. It's the same thing when you have trucks carrying alcoholic drinks or soft drinks have accidents and you see people running to steal. That's just pure criminality. We should stop confusing criminality with poverty. There are poor people who are honest, who are law abiding. They're not criminals. Let's call it out for what it is. The people died because they're criminals. I'm sorry. Because if they didn't go to scoop that petrol, they would still be alive.
Yes, it's criminal, but we need to also remember, at the point of hunger, you're not thinking. A lot of them are not thinking.
Gbubemi, some of us are poor. We're not carrying AK-47s. We're not resorting to
True.
crime. Exactly. So criminality is criminality. We should call it out.
All right, let's take some messages. Time has absolutely flew by this morning. Tony from Marine Beach says, interesting to know that it's the House of Reps that's championing the call for reversal of pump price of fuel. Recall that it was the same House of Reps that made the first move to visit the Dangote refinery during the back and forth between NNPC and Dangote on poor grade fuel. I suspect there are highly placed persons in that house that are close to him and they know more than Nigerians know. I wonder what they know that we don't know. I'd love to know. Joseph Menyu says, Nigeria has gotten to the point that Femi Kuti sang about sorry, the humongous expenditure that the trips of the presidency and vice presidency have incurred is unthinkable and unimaginable. Nothing tangible has been impacted. Just imagine the country on autopilot as absolutely nothing positive is happening. Every day is pain, sorrow, and agony. May God bless Nigeria. Who else is talking to us? Let me see here. Damilola says to Mr. C, there is no shock absorber for the president's reforms. It's called shock therapy economics, and the process is well documented as an economic tool. It's something we have to see through. Anyone telling you there are shock absorbers, I beg your pardon, is lying to you. Okay. Tosca Delgado says, in Nigeria, there's nothing like light at the end of the tunnel. Further says 20 million compared to over 200 million people is like throwing a cup of water in the ocean. There's that. Who's talking? D from Ikeja says, the House of Reps should start with reducing the cost of governance. Do they even know the hardship the hardworking Nigerian is facing? Families begging and borrowing is the current reality. A lot of us who are currently employed are struggling to provide for our families because the salaries our employers pay us is very poor, hence reducing our purchasing power. Ajayo Lodilwa says, it's surprising that government is waiting to be told, even by the House of Reps, that its policies are creating serious hardships on the masses. The president must hearken to the cries of the people before they turn violent. And Barrister Dan Kuda says, the numerous trips by government officials in the guise of bringing in foreign investors is sheer waste of resources and exercise in futility. No sensible investor will throw his hard-earned money into a chaotic economy like ours. Thank you for sharing your thoughts, and thank you so much, Mr. C and Gbubemi, for joining me on a Thursday morning, as you always do. It's always amazing having you guys on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for having me.
All right, Lagos, have yourselves a great morning. But keep it tuned to the Smooth Breakfast at 8:15. It's all about entertainment and all the gist on the grapevine. Keep it tuned.
So, Gbubemi.
No. I agree with you.
No. So the point I want to make, for people who survive stunts like that, they go to school, feel their bonds, but they survive.